All right, we're going to use this data set to learn how to do some things in Excel, like use the if statement, create pivot tables, and things like that. So here's the data set. It shows observations for different restaurants, the quality rating for the food, and then how much the meal costs. So let's do the first thing. Let's use an if statement to see, let's say we want to count how many observations were recorded as excellent. So we have an if statement. So to do this, we start with equals if. And so this one takes 3 different arguments. So the first one says the logical test. So we want to know if this cell is equal to excellent. We have to put it in quotes right here. Oops, sorry about that. Because it's characters, it's words. So if this is equal to excellent, what we want is we want it to return the number 1, the value 1. And if it's not excellent, we want 0. So that is our if statement. So again, if this cell is equal to excellent, we want to see 1. If not, we want 0. So we see, right, this is good, it's not excellent, so it's 0. So we want to copy and paste all of this formula into all of these cells. So what we can do, instead of doing that manually or creating and writing about 300 if statements, what you can do is you can hold your mouse over the bottom of the box and a crosshair will appear. Once you do that, just double click it and it will autofill all the equations. And then you just want to double check it. So the next one is very good, right? That's not excellent, so it's 0, right? That's not excellent, so it's 0. This is excellent, so it's 1. And then you just briefly look back down that and you see it seems as though it worked pretty well. So let's count how many excellent ratings there were. So of course we could go through and we can count them 1, right, 2, 3, or we could just sum all of the ones, right, all of these ones together to figure out the total. So let's go to the bottom, right, and write an equation, right, using the sum. So it's just going to sum all of these cells, right, and it will tell us that there's 66. There were 66 excellent ratings. So say we wanted to see what this formula is. So we see that it's 66, and of course if we just highlight the box, right, we've clicked it up here, we can see what the formula is. Alternatively, we could use the equals formula text function. And so all this does is it takes just one argument, the cell that you want to see the formula for. You close the parentheses, and it will show you, right, that this was created with this this statement, this function, this formula right here. So we can just double click between E and F. See how this this cursor comes up? This one, just double click, and it will auto create the width. It will make the width equal to whatever your content is. So let's go back up to the top. So shortcut control arrow up will take us all the way back up to the top. So we saw that there were 66 excellent observations. Some things we can do is we can use the filter function. So up here you see sort and filter. Just go to filter, and now you see all these little drop downs. So we can go over here to quality ratings, and we can click on the drop down, and we can filter. Say we want to see only the excellent ratings. So unselect all, just select excellent, hit OK, and now we only see the excellent ratings. So if we kind of scroll through real quick, we should expect to see all ones. If you were to see zeros in here, you know that there would be a mistake somewhere in there. So again, just a shortcut. If you hit Control Z, that will just undo that. I don't like seeing these little drop downs. It drives me nuts. So I'm just going to go back and unclick the filters to get rid of them. So that was one of the first things that we can do. Again, we can use our formulas if we wanted to see, hey, how did you get that? Of course, we can click the box. Or we could get again use our formula text function. So equals formula text, open parentheses, right, highlight the box, close parentheses, enter. Right, we can click between E and F to make the width equal to the largest content, largest cell, or the cell with the largest content, to word it better. Again, we want to copy and paste all of that. So what we can do is just hold our mouse over the bottom of the box, right? That bottom corner crosshair appears, double click, right? And it creates the formula for all of those, right? So we have that. So let's actually do another if statement when there's more than one thing that we want to look at. So this was just an if else basically statement. If one thing, you have one outcome, one, if otherwise it's zero. Let's say that we want to say let's look at the mill prices and rank them or sort them or categorize them rather in terms of price being low, medium, or high. So let's insert Control Y is basically just, says do what you already did for a shortcut if you want to do that. So we have low price, we have medium price, and we have a high price. So let's say that anything for a meal price, I'm assuming this is probably per person, so let's just make that assumption. Anything from basically $0 to $20, I would say is like a low price, I guess. For medium, it's anything more than 20, but well, we'll just go through $30. So if it's anywhere more than 20 but through $30, it's a medium price. And then high is just going to be more than $30. I just made those up. But let's just use these categories to put these prices into a different categories, basically. So to do this, right, we start with our if statement, but this time we're going to use another statement within the if statement, which is kind of weird, but we're going to do that. So this is going to check whether all arguments are true and return true if all arguments are true. So basically, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to say if something this, but then for everything else that doesn't include that, we have to do another if statement. So let's start at the top and basically categorize it by high. So if the cell, right, we're interested in this cell, we're looking at the prices. So if this cell, right, is more than, right, we said more than 30, right, so greater than 30, right, what is going to happen, right, because we have to close the parentheses for this and statement. So if that, right, what value happens? What are we going to get? Well, we want it to be labeled as high. So remember, we have to put it in the quotes because it's characters. So we have to do that. So that's the first thing, that if whatever's in here is more than 30, it's labeled as high. Otherwise, right, what's going to happen? Well, there's two other options. It could be labeled as medium or low. So we need another if and statement. So for this time, we're going to specify that, okay, for it to be, well, because we'll go in order from high to medium to low. So for medium, we're going to say that, okay, what did we say? It's more than 20. So now if this, right, cell is more than 20, right, but we also have another statement here. It has to be more than 30, but it also has to be less than or equal to 30. So now we have to click it again and say, well, okay, it has to be, right, in the first part, more than 20, but it also has to be less than or equal to, because 30, right, is included in the medium, 30, right, then what happens? Well, right, then it's considered a medium price. And then the last one, right, we have one more statement. So this is going to be if the statement is anywhere from 0, right, so it's greater than 0, but it also has to be up through $20. So it has to be less than, right, or equal to, because we're saying anything from 0 through 20, right, what's going to happen to that? We are going to label that as a low price. So that's mostly it for that. So now the only thing is we have to remember to close all of our parentheses. So we can start closing them. So that's the first one. So you know sometimes if you can see it, I know it might be hard on my computer, but it color coordinates them for you. So this one is actually, and it highlights it. So we just close this first one, right? These two are closed, they're in green. This first one is purple, right? These two are closed. We have another one right here that we have to include. And see how it just highlighted? These ones are together, and then so we have one more. Watch this one right here by this if and statement. Watch it highlight when I do this. Did you see how it got bold? So it kind of helps you keep track of it. So we hit enter, and we have our new if statements. So, right, this is $18, which falls in this low category. So it did a good job. So again, let's hold our cursor over, the crosshair appears, double click, and it autofills. So let's just double check a few of these, right? 20 falls in this category as medium. 28 falls in this 20 to 30 category, that's medium, right? 38 is more than 30, so that's high. 33 is more than 30, right? High. So this is looking, just looking through these fields, this looks pretty good. So that's just another way you can use if statements basically to, if you have more categories. So you can just keep going. So you had 4 or 5 categories. You could just keep going and using this if and. The other thing you have to really pay attention to is your close parentheses and the greater than or equal to, because sometimes it's tricky. Because sometimes you might say like 0 to 20, and then the next one you might put 20 as well. What if you had something that was exactly 20? It might get confused about which category to put it in. So you just have to make sure you keep track of, well, is it less than or less than and equal to? Those sorts of things. So that's another way to use an if statement. Sorry if I say if else. That's a different programming use term. So I think we've done a pretty good job with this. So let's actually go through and let's now try to create a pivot table. So a pivot table will basically take these categories and it will count the number of observations basically that fall in each of the categories. So say we want to use the quality ratings and we want to count how many are good, very good, excellent, and hey, maybe there's some more categories that we're missing. Maybe there's like a very bad or horrible. I don't know, I don't see, but again, there are about 300 observations. What if we had a data set that had 1,000 observations? That would be a lot to go through and organize or check. So we can basically just tell Excel to do that. So we can go to, you can highlight the data, or you can go to Insert, Pivot Table up here, and it says select a table or range. So let's do that first. Let's select our quality ratings. It's Control-Shift down. We'll highlight all of the data for you. See how it did that? And location, I like to put it in the existing worksheet, so you can kind of click wherever you want it to appear. So I want it to appear here. So I just click that for location right down here. The default is new worksheet, but we want it in the existing worksheet. You can do whatever you want, but I like to have everything in one file. So we hit OK. Now this option appears for us to build our pivot table. So up here at the top we have our different options. So all we have is quality rating because that's really the only variable we have. So we now have to build it. We have columns and rows. So I like to put things in rows just like they are here. So we're going to click on this and drag it and drop it into rows. And you'll see as we do this, it starts to build. So we see that there are 3 categories: excellent, good, and very good. So now we need to put the counts in there basically. So we can again select our data, and this time we're going to put it in the values field down here. And you'll see that Excel counted them for us. And then the first thing you should see is excellent had 66, which makes sense because remember when we summed all of our ones together, it said 66. So this is good. So you can kind of see in Excel how you can almost check your work using different tools, basically. So we're kind of confirming what we already know, that there were 66 observations that were rated as excellent. We see that there were 150 very good and just 84 good for a grand total of 300. So that's important too. It's another check. We know that there are 300, right? If we scroll all the way to the bottom, we see that, right, what is the total? Right, it goes to 304 columns, but, right, the first 4, right, are not data. So, right, 304 minus 4 is 300 observations. So we have that. So you can get rid of that pivot table option, but if you click on it again, it can appear, or you can bring it up again. So that kind of helps too. So there's some other things that we can do in terms of our pivot table. So let's say that we actually want to organize and create a pivot table that shows us the food the quality rating, but also the meal price in terms of low, medium, high, because maybe we'd want to look at our data and say, well, how many of the excellent ratings were, how were they priced? You know, what were they? You'd probably assume if it was an excellent rating, maybe it was priced higher. So maybe we want to organize our data that way. So a couple things that we can do is we can basically copy our data. Right, this is just data. We can just copy this row. So, right, I highlighted this row, control copy, right, that's control C, and we come over here, let's just put over here in K and paste it, right, and it just pastes that. So that was just a regular cell, but let's copy our if cell. So this has equations. So let's just see what happens when we do control copy, right, control C, and we come over here to a new column, right, and we paste this, right? See how we have problems here? It pasted false, right? So basically what happened is it was copying these equations that we created, these statements, these functions, and we're having problems with it. But what really we want is we want it just to paste what we already have, right? Low, medium, high. So let's hit Control Z. That will undo what we just did. But let's copy this again and go over to L and highlight it. But this time let's go over here to paste. Click on the little drop down arrow thing. And under paste values, click the one that says 1, 2, 3. It just says, if you hold your cursor over it, it says values. And see, you can see over here, all right, whoops, sorry, is the default. Like if you go over there, see it's copying exactly what we want. So hit paste values, and that's exactly what it did. It just said, hey, whatever the values were, right, the outcome, if you will, that's what it pasted. So, right, just low, medium, medium, and that's exactly what we wanted. I'm just going to get rid of that stuff right there. I'm going to Control B, bold that. So now that's just a different way of pasting your values instead of the formulas and things like that. So now we have actually the data that we want, quality rating and oops, sorry, this ended up being, what was this? Price, I think, right? Price. So, and that's what we want to basically organize. We want to see, hey, how many excellent ratings were rated as high for price, medium for price, low for price. So what we can do is we can organize this again using a pivot table, but this time there's two variables to it. So we got to make a add to our pivot table. So let's highlight our data. So I'm just using the Control-Shift down arrow, and it will select all of the data that we want. See how that's all highlighted? And we go over to Insert, Pivot Table, and our pivot table appears. So right, we already have our table selected. So see down here, right, we don't want a new worksheet. We want it in our existing worksheet. So now we have to pick a location. Let's put it over here in N and hit OK. You can really put it wherever you want. Let's just move some things over here. So we have to build it. So let's say that we want the quality rating again in rows, right? Like we had before, excellent, good, very good. But now we want to add the price. So let's add that to the columns. So now we have that here. So now what it's going to do, Excel, is it's going to go through and it's going to count how many of the different observations were both excellent and high. And this cell will tell us how many were excellent and low. So pick one of these variables and drag it and drop it into values, and it will do that for us. So it's really nice because now we see that there were, for excellent and high price, there were 46. For how many of them were excellent and low price, there were 4. And again, it tells us the grand total. So this is pretty helpful. But one thing you might notice is it's a little annoying that they're not in order in terms of the categories. So excellent, good, very good, that doesn't really make sense. I like to organize things in terms of worst to best or lowest to highest. So that would be good, would be the lowest rating. Very good would be the next best. And then excellent, I'm assuming, is the best. That's the order that I would think. So we can rearrange these. So basically what you want to do is just hold your cursor over the excellent cell until this crosshair appears. Make sure that it doesn't have this crosshair or the arrow. Where's the arrow? That arrow, right? You want that crosshair to appear. So once that happens, right click, and then you'll see a move option. So we can move this. We can even move it down one, or we can just move it to the end. So hit move to end. and you'll see it reorganize the data. So now it makes sense. It goes from good to very good to excellent. So that kind of makes sense in terms of organizing your data and your table to make it easier to read. Now if we look to the price, again, this doesn't make sense. High, low, medium, right? We want low to go over here, and then medium, then high. So we can reorganize these. So again, click on your cell when the crosshair looks like that, right? Not like that, not highlighted. You want just the high cell highlighted. And then what you can do, right click, go down to move, and then you can see you can move it to end or wherever you want. So now this makes sense. It goes low, medium, high. So this kind of makes sense. So now we can better make sense of the data. So food that's rated the lowest, right, only is good. It makes sense that there's a lot more observations here at the lowest price, right? Typically, if you're not paying for as much for food, you're probably not going to expect it to be that great of quality, right? If something is good, right, people hopefully won't be pricing it so high because that doesn't make sense for a business model. If we look at excellent, right, so excellent ratings, it doesn't make sense that you're probably going to be giving away great food at a low price. So it makes sense that there's the fewest number of observations here and the most here. So say we want to know, well, how many, what percentage of all the observations were low priced and excellent rating, right? Well, we know we would just divide, right, equals 4, right? There are 4 observations out of how many, right? Total 300, right? Equals that, right? There was about 1.3%. So about 1% of all observations were excellent and low price. So we could do that manually, or what we could do is we could click on our pivot table. Again, just click anywhere in it, doesn't matter which cell. When the crosshair appears, right click it. And this time, go down to summarize values as, and then you'll see an option that says percent of grand total. Click on that. Click on that. And what it does is it now says, hey, what for the number of observations here, right? What is that of all the observations, right? What percentage is that basically? So we see right here for excellent that we did. It says that hey, it's about 1%, a little over 1%, which is what we calculated. So you can basically reorganize your data as even raw data observations or percent of the total. So right, it makes sense, right? The grand total, right, 100%. Right, if you add all these together, you get 100%. So we can see that, hey, for those that were good and low, good quality and low price, there was about 17% of them. Things that were high price and excellent quality, there was about 15% of those. So it's just a different way of organizing your data and making sense of it. So I think we've done a lot of things that hopefully make sense in terms of using the sum function, the if statement. We talked about filters, pivot tables, organizing those, pasting values, showing equations. So I think these are a lot of basics that are pretty important to know. If you have any questions or problems, just let me know. Thanks.